Browns trailing the Raiders 14-12. Cleveland was driving for the win. Brian Sipe looked for Ozzie Newsome, but Raiders safety Mike Davis stepped up and picked off Sipe in the end zone, which sent Oakland to the Super Bowl, where they topped the Eagles. Davis said after the catch, all he heard in Cleveland's Municipal Stadium was silence. But after his 9-year NFL career, silence would come back to haunt Davis. Chris Connolly has his sad story.
In the 9 years he played safety for the Raiders, Mike Davis was always willing to sacrifice his body to lay brutal licks on his opponents.
I laid some guys out. I was cracking them up pretty good. Cracker Jacks didn't have nothing on me.
But that disregard for his own body would come back to haunt him long after his 2 Super Bowl victories in the early 80s. Because while Mike Davis could see what those hits did to his foes, he couldn't see what those hits were doing to him. They were making him deaf.
Rob Martin was talking to me one game, and I never heard him. Never, ever heard him.
I kind of got discouraged about it. And I thought he was not paying attention to me, of course. And of course I got a little upset.
He said, you don't ignore me. Don't be treating me like them, pointing at your opponent. But I didn't hear him.
Mike, are you sure that football and the hits you took caused your hearing loss?
I'm sure as we're sitting here right now, I'm sure. I'm 100% sure.
After seeing a video of Mike's most vicious collision, a sort of Mike Davis's greatest hit, NFLPA player retirement plan trustees ruled his hearing loss was football-related, a first, and so covered by insurance. By then, 8 years after his 1987 retirement, Davis could hardly hear at all. With no hearing in one ear and less than 50% in the other, Mike struggled with hearing aids through the late 90s. Then, his world fell silent. Early last year, he got the shattering diagnosis.
I said, Mike, you're deaf. And I saw his poor eyes just fall to the floor, and my heart was beating so hard I had to turn because I was crying so hard.
That was really an emotional time. I mean, not even can't even hear a vibrate. If you stomp your foot, you couldn't hear it. Somebody could fire a cannon behind you. You couldn't hear it.
I called over to the house and wanted to talk to Mike, and his wife, Mary, said, Mike can't come to the phone. He's gone totally deaf.
It got to be pretty depressing, and it became a lonely existence.
But Davis had a last chance to hear again. A cochlear implant, a cranial operation, in which a bionic chip is implanted into the skull. By now, his son Mike Davis Jr. was playing football at Arizona State. Mike yearned to hear the cheers for him. Yet after a lifetime spent sacrificing his body, he was wary of more time under the knife, until his own father helped him decide.
I said, well, man, and throughout my football career, I've had over 10 surgeries. I don't want another surgery. I don't need it. Just the stigma of having a surgery. But my wife had talked to my dad, and my dad told her it's hard on him because his son couldn't hear his voice.
That was all the motivation he needed. Earlier this year, Mike underwent the 2.5-hour operation.
The first actual thing I wanted to hear, first of all, will this work? And it did, it was 2 people in there, doing the hookup and everything, and I'm like, holy cow. amazing, this thing does work. You know, I'm hearing sounds. No, imagine. For 3 years, I haven't heard a word until then. For 3 years.
I went in another room and cried because I didn't want him to see me cry, but because I had cried so long, these were cries of joy.
Mike eagerly shared the news with his closest friends, who were just as joyful.
My wife goes, "Bob, Mike's on the phone." I'm like, "What?" And after I went out and grabbed the phone, and all of a sudden I'm talking to him like, like it was the old days.
And while these are good times for Mike Davis, the old days haven't lost their luster. He remains proud of how he played football, even knowing what he knows now. He says he sacrificed his body all over again.
If we're sitting here now in another life, and you know what I'm going to be going through after I finish my career, I will still tell you I would play the game. Call it crazy, call it whatever you want, but it's a passion. That's why everybody can't do it.
Mike Davis says he plans on writing a book on his experiences to help others with hearing impairments deal with their situations. He also plans on starting a charitable foundation to aid the hearing impaired.